Hey and welcome, Year 10 students. Today we're looking at factorising, solving quadratic equations by factorising. I think I've set for you question 1 through to question 4H, so there's quite a few to do there. I'm going to pick up on, not all of them. I'll just try some from each of the different sections. Now, part 1, question 1, looks like most of what we're doing there is the difference between two squares. Or some of it's the difference between two squares, some of it's even easier than that. So for example, if we look at A, we've got x squared is equal to 16. You can take the square root of both sides, and therefore you've got plus or minus 4. Okay, of course this is actually the difference between two squares, because you can go x squared minus 16 equals to 0. And therefore x minus 4, x plus 4 equals 0. Therefore x equals 4 or minus 4. So that's how we solve those. Now, I'm not going to do all of these. I might do a few. Let's have a look at this D one here. Yes, now we've got x squared equals to 1/4. And we're going to again take the square root of both sides, and that will give us plus or minus 1/2. Now, just a little side note here, when you're square rooting something like this, we can rewrite it as the square root of 1 over the square root of 4, and the square root of 1 is 1 and the square root of 4 is 2, so that's how we get that one. Okay, now moving on, let's try something like, k. So for k, we've got 25x squared equals 16. I would just probably bring that 16 across, and you see I've got a minus 16, and then I can make it equal to 0. Now this is, again, you notice this is a square number, this is squared, and this is squared. So, and we've got a minus here. So we're talking about the difference between two squares here. Now, how I would solve this is I'm going to go 5x minus 4 bracket bracket, and then 5x plus 4 equals to 0. Okay, so I've taken the square root of both of these, and then whoops, don't know what happened there. Okay, so therefore we can now say that x is equal to 4/5 or minus 4/5. Now again, if you're a bit confused about how we get that, what we've got to do to make this whole thing equal to 0 is either one of those brackets needs to equal 0. So what does x need to be to equal 0? Well, 5 times what is 4? And you can see that if I times something like 4 over 5 by 5, you're going to get cancel, cancel, and you'll be left with the 4 that you need. 4 take away 4 is 0. Okay? So essentially when you're trying to factorize something where there's a coefficient, when you're trying to find out what equals to 0 in a bracket like this, you want to take this number here, change the sign, and put it over this number here, and that's what x will be. Okay, now that's section part 1. Now part 2 asks you, is it possible to solve this equation, x squared plus 16 equals 0? And the answer is no. And the reason for that is if we pull that 16 across to the other side, and we want to take the square root of it, we want plus or minus the square root of minus 16. Whoops, what's going on with my pen here? Okay, 16. Now, you chuck that into your calculator and you'll get math error. Dum, dum, dum. Okay, so we actually, if you decide to take maths further on, we will talk about this further. We can actually get, there is a result, it's we get an imaginary number, but we're not even going to go there today, guys. So we can't solve it. We would say no real results. Okay, now having a look at number 3. There's a few different types here. So in part 3, we've got ones like this here. So we've got x squared plus 6x is equal to 0. Now with these ones, you'll notice you don't have that plus c at the end, you know, some other number, variable, constant, sorry. So what we do is we just simply, factorize like that. Okay, now when we factorize like that, we can see that x could equal to this one here, 0 times anything, right? And this one here would have to be minus 6, because minus 6 plus 6 is 0, and 0 times anything is 0. So those would be the answers there. Now, let's take a look at something like, there must be another one we can do here. Yeah, what could we do? What about something like 4, not B, we'll do G. We'll do 4x squared plus 9x is equal to 0. And I'm going to take x out, and then I'll have 4x plus 9 in the bracket. So x could be equal to 0. That's that one there. 0 times anything is 0. Now in this one, what would x be? Well, we take this one here, change the sign, and divide it by this one here. So negative 9/4. Okay, that's that one. Let's say we've got something like m. X squared equals 4x. So we're going to pull the minus 4x across, and then we'll have 0 on the right hand side there. We factorize that by taking the x out, and we'll have x minus 4 in the brackets. And so what are the answers? We're going to have x equals this one here, 0, or, and the one in the bracket must be 4. And those would be our answers there. Now, moving on, I want to talk about the 4 different types of quadratics that we normally have to solve. So, type 1. I've just been doing this with the year 9s actually. This is when you've got plus, plus. So I'll give you an example. X squared, here we go, plus 5x plus 6. Now, when you've got a plus and a plus, what this ends up factorizing out to is x plus something, x plus something. And the reason for that is this number here is made up of your last times last. It's this bit here, okay? So that's what that is. And this number, this here, is made up of the firsts times the firsts. And then the only other thing you have is this times this, and this times this. Okay, the O and the I. And they together make up this bit here. So, what we do when we're solving these is we look at this last number and we write down our factors. 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Now, because we've got both positives in here, that means we've got positive 1, positive 6, positive 2, positive 3, and we've got to decide which ones add to make 5. Well, obviously it's these, so we would factorize this, and it would be plus 2, plus 3. Okay, so that's type 1. So type 1, you have a positive number at the end. So this positive here, you have that, and that tells you that you're dealing with 2 positive numbers if you've got this positive here. Now type 2 is very similar. So type 2, you've got minus positive. So an example would be x squared. Let me see, let me give you an example from your text. Do we have one here? Yes, here's one, minus 9x plus 8. Okay, now the second plus tells you that you've either got 2 minuses or 2 pluses, because it's the last times the last. Okay, so to get a positive number here, you either have a minus times a minus or a plus times a plus. And the fact that you've got a minus here tells you that you must be dealing with 2 minuses. So type 2 occurs, and you will have, when you've got a plus and a minus, like this here, and that means that you'll have 2 minuses in your brackets. Whoops, I made a mistake there. 2 minuses in your brackets. Okay, so then you look at your factors of 8, 1, 8, 2, 4, and they've got to both be minuses, and they have to add to 9, minus 9. So it's